Hey guys, welcome back to How to Tully, and today I will be showing you guys how to make this Bible tote bag. So let's go ahead and jump in. The first thing you guys are going to need to do is go ahead and get your pattern. I'm going to show you guys what it looks like when you don't use the interfacing that the pattern calls for. You still absolutely can make it, but it is a bit softer and not as stiff and doesn't sit up on its own. So we're going to go ahead and grab our pattern. We grabbed our fabric, our interfacing, and our lining, and we're about to get started. So this is the pattern. It says Little Fabric Tote by So Simple. You can go to sosimple.com and you guys can find that, but I will be posting the link in the description below for you guys to grab it and go to her site. And I will be using denim fabric today for the outer part of my bag, as you guys saw in the thumbnail, and I will be using this wool interfacing. I think it's fleece interfacing that is iron on, and then also I will be using some black polyester fabric for my lining. So that's 6 total layers for the bag, and then you will also need to have some fabric for your scraps. So this is the scrap that I will be using, a denim scrap, and I cut it 2 times the size, but you guys can cut it once on the fold and cut it in half immediately, or you guys can do it the same way that I did it, where I cut it on the fold and I'm going to sew it that long and then cut it in half when it's time to sew, or you can leave it that long. It's really up to you. You can really just diversify the pattern. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and just get ready to iron on our fleece, and I will just be using a iron on the hottest setting, and sometimes I like to steam it or wet it a little bit so that it can help heat up that other side, and you'll feel it's more bumpy than smooth like the other side. Okay, so I'm just going to line it up and make sure that it's sitting good so I don't have to cut that much fabric off at the end, and you don't have to cut any off at the end if you did it the right size. So most of the time you push and press down until it for about 10 seconds, and that will be enough for your interfacing to work. But I'm just putting really firm pressure as I roll myself around to save us some time on the video, just so that you guys could see the process of it. But make sure you're pressing firm and that you confirm that it is all pressed down, so that when you sew it on, it's basically like 1 layer instead of 2 layers of fabric. Okay, so once we are done with that, you guys could choose to do the same thing to the other side and make your bag. But if you guys want to add a design like I'm going to do, I will be adding some iron-on vinyl, and I'm going to cut away the extra that you guys see that I was talking about. But this part is done, and my other side is done already as well, where I added my vinyl. You guys could buy vinyl already weeded. If you guys are familiar with the Cricut, you guys would know to weed it out and you'll iron it on. I basically just used my iron for this one, and we can keep going because I know most of you guys watching this may sew and not have a Cricut, so I didn't show that part, but you can watch my other videos where I show you guys more about the Cricut and weeding vinyl and different things like that. Okay, so now that this is done, you guys could see that we'll have to put right sides together to be able to sew it. But this is the 2 layers, and then we have our lining. The way that you guys will sew this is, once again, you make sure that your good sides are facing each other, and you're going to sew the right side, the left side, and also the bottom part. And once you're done with that, we're going to fold it again and sew right across to make that square box look, and you're going to do the exact same thing to your lining. Okay, so that's basically the base of what we're going to do, and I'm trying to be very detailed because I know a lot of beginners are really scared to do things like this, but I want you guys to see that it is very simple and we could do it together. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how I make a bias out of my scraps. There's so many different ways that you can do it. You can even buy scraps that are already made, like leather scraps where you don't have to sort or anything, you just attach it to your bag. There's different ways, but this way we're going to be creating a bias. And the way that I create my bias is I fold the fabric in half, and I create a middle crease. And after that middle crease is created, you take it and you fold your fabric into your raw ends into that crease, and you press it again. That's going to create like 4 folds of fabric. So when you sew it, there's no raw ends showing, and it's just this nice, beautiful scrap. Once again, this is twice the length of what you need, but it is very helpful to just be able to sew it all together as once and then cut it in half, and now you have your 2 scraps. So I'm using a straight stitch, and I believe my tension is between 3 and 5 on my Brother LX. I think 17. I'll put it in the description below as well. So I'm just making sure that it stays straight, and I am sewing the open side first so you don't have to worry about it later on. You're going to keep going down. But I ran out of bobbin, so I ended up cutting that off and restarting at some point on my scrap, and you guys will see that I just skip over that. But all you do is do a straight line right down the handle. And that is where my bobbin ran out, and I went ahead and I replaced it, and we're just going to sew straight down the rest of the way. And I'm just holding it in place so that it doesn't shift and move, so you can have those 2 nice straight lines. Okay, and after that, I'm showing you guys that this was double the length. I'm going to fold it in half and simply cut it, and then get ready to attach it. I am using about, I think I'm using about 2 inches over from the edge of the bag to know where I want to place my scraps. So that may help you guys, because I don't think it specifies on the pattern. I guess you can put it to a place where you feel like it'll be stable, and I chose 2 inches away from my side seams. And I accidentally grabbed the long scrap, and then I went ahead and grabbed a shorter scrap that I already cut in half. And once those scraps are attached, you're going to put that aside, and now we're going to sew the lining of our bag. And this is pretty much the same for most tote bags. There's different ways that you can do it, but this is a very well-known method. You guys can change the measurements, make it bigger, make it longer. Just make sure that when you do that, even if you use the pattern, you could just scale up to 150%, 200%, and it should still level out if you guys want bigger bags and use the same pattern, so you don't have to have a lot of different patterns. In here, I sewed my side, my bottom, and now I'm going to sew the other side. And once that is done, we're going to do the side pleats, where it creates that box shape for our fabric. So you grab it and you pinch the fabric, the 2 seams together from the top and the side, from the side and the bottom of the fabric. You're going to turn it under your sewing machine and do a straight stitch, about at least a 1/2 inch seam allowance, so that you can make sure that it stays in place. It doesn't rip from, you know, Bibles being in the bag, pins being in the bag, and all that other great stuff. And we're going to do the same thing to the other side. Make sure those seams line up. You guys can use pins or clips, but I'm kind of used to it, so I was okay with just going ahead and doing it by hand and holding it in place. And be sure to backstitch and cut off your thread. So now you guys see that we have our lining fabric ready, and we're going to just stick that bag inside of the lining fabric. Make sure that your seams are what's visible, so that right sides are together for the bag and the lining. If you guys wanted to add a pocket, you can even do that as well. Watch a video on how to add a pocket or measurements of a pocket, and you go ahead and add it right onto the lining before you do this next step. So now what I'm doing is moving the clip off of our handle and bag to put it on the lining as well. Make sure that it doesn't shift and that you hold it in place, and when you sew it, that all 3 layers are there and visible. So now we have all of our layers together, and from here I'm going to go around, making sure you leave a opening for your hand to go in so that you can turn it right side out. Now that I'm back to the other side, I made sure that I left the opening for my hand to fit inside. You guys see my seam, and we're just going to stick our hand in there and grab a corner and start pulling that corner through the hole. You're going to pull the fabric out while you're pushing the other fabric back, so that eventually it will be right side out. And you kind of get like a long rectangle with the lining and the out fabric just forming like this rectangle shape, just like that. From here, you're going to tuck that lining back inside of your bag. And you should only have that little opening where we stuck our hand through that you see peeking right there in the front near the "My God is Dope." Here I'm just lining up my seams on both sides because we're going to do a top stitch all the way around, and that top stitch is what's going to close and seal that hole that we used in the front. So now you won't even know that there was even an opening on the bag, and it'll just look like a top stitch all the way around, and there's no seam on the inside, on the side, any of that. This pattern was very helpful and very awesome. I really do love the way that this bag came out. I already sold one, and like it was just a really awesome experience to sell one of these bags, and it being something that glorified God. You guys could use it for school, for studying, for church, all that good stuff. Like, it's a really dope bag. So here I'm doing that top stitch that I told you guys about, not leaving an opening, making sure that you grasp all of those handles, because our handles should have been sewn well in the beginning, but now we're going to top stitch over it to give it more security, as well as closing that opening in the front. You're going to cut your loose seams after you do your back stitch. And that is pretty much it. Our bag is basically done. I'm going to show you guys what it looks like now that it is all finished. You guys see that pleat at the bottom, that beautiful box shape that it sits up on its own. Is very awesome. Like, I absolutely love this pattern, this bag, this style, all of that. So I'm going to just push my sewing machine out of the way, put my clips away, clean up my area so I can show you guys what it looks like when I add all of my biblical items in here. So that's going to be my women's Bible study Bible. It's going to be my journal for journaling and taking notes in church, my notepad to put in the Bible, to put in your journal, you know, church flyers, all that good stuff could fit in this bag comfortably. It's not busting at the seams. It looks cute. It's effective. You don't have to hold it in your hand on your chest. You can bag this really cute bag with whatever fabric you want, like essential oils if you're feeling stressed and you just need a little bit of extraness, you know, like all of that. I really did enjoy this. I really enjoyed this project, and this is what it looks like when we use the interfacing, the front, the back, the sides. And don't forget the one that we made without the interfacing. So if you don't have the interfacing, you just want to try this pattern out, or you want to make it without it, it still absolutely works, but you guys see the difference when we use that fleece interfacing. So that is it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time here on How to Tully. Peace.